You're watching the Skateboarding Bros Show. Stories from the pioneers of skateboarding about the history and the fun of the sport we love.
Hunter Joslin rides a wave of time with a board and a dream, a rhythm, a rhyme, skateboard safari, carved his name, manager, ambassador, stoking the flame.
Welcome to episode 58 or 580 of the Florida Skateboarding Bros Show. And we are happy to have here today. We're here. We're happy about that. And Phil, and then our guest, Hunter Joslin, out of somewhere in Florida near the waves.
Melbourne Beach.
Melbourne Beach.
It's great to have you, Hunter, because when back in 78, 79, 70, whenever, you were like the voice. Every time we had some kind of contest or something, I knew it was going to be fun because you were, boom, on top of this thing, making people feel good. And just congratulations on surviving. So it was a good era.
Well, thank you. I much enjoyed getting on a microphone and having fun with everybody. I mean, my whole shtick was to be myself and off the wall, and people would tend to listen. And I did it for the Hester Pro Bowl series over in California, and I did it for the ISA Freestyle Championships 2 years in a row. And I did several events there in Florida, and especially the one at Sensation Basin was a lot of fun, and we avoided a riot when the guy got caught stealing the skateboard. But I called him out, and they broke the headlights and taillights out of his Volkswagen with skateboards, but they didn't hurt him.
Right, yeah. That was a miracle, really.
He flattened his tires, and he drove over. I remember watching him drive over the railroad tracks on his rims.
And there's never been crime in the skateboarding world since that moment. That's 60, 50 years ago or whatever the hell it was.
So I remember must have been one of your maiden voyages. You brought Scott McCrannles to Clearwater Skatepark.
Yeah, we did this Clearwater Skatepark event, and we did the downhill race.
And Drew Street.
Yeah, I am that, and then the skate park contest. That was
the Fun and Sun Festival. Yep. We had John Hudson from big slalom guy. Daryl Miller, I think, was out there. Tony and Dave Hackett. It was when you rolled up. I think it was the first time I saw, as someone who had quit skateboarding I quit baseball, which I played for 8 years, and broke my dad's heart and my mom's heart, and started skating. It was the first time somebody had came from outside of Clearwater and said, hey, we're doing stuff here too. This is a real thing, that is gonna, it's gonna become a valid alternative. And then Scott McCrannles, who was raised on a surfboard by Red, may he rest in peace, and just
Red's alive.
He is.
His father Chummer passed away, but Scott McCrannles, alias Red, is alive and kicking.
Yeah, and he shreds. I used to. He's now like
he can surf amazingly well. And he's just pushing 60. He's surfing fantastic.
It's amazing. And
we need to get him on the show.
Well, maybe one day he'll find out that I quit drinking and he'll come on the show. But I don't even know if we have he knows we have a show. But he was killing it. He was absolutely killing it. You guys were all macked out in the Sims gear. And I believe the thing why do I remember this? You were calling each other a you pimpy dwid. Now, I'm 65 years old, and that was in early 77.
Yeah.
Not real sure why that sticks with me, but you guys are having fun. You were an adult. You were an old guy.
I was 26.
So you were 8 or 9 years older than me. I imagine you still are. So,
You know, what was cool about that era, nobody had ever, at least I don't know, at any of these events, had somebody on the microphone that was doing color commentating and motivating and all that. There was no history to work from, and you created all that. And in my mind, you were the skateboarding voice for that era. And that era to me was such a ramp up of fun and excitement. You never knew what was going to be next, and new tricks, and now you come out new voice of skateboarding. And I got to hand it to you, because I think you were a bellwether for others in the industry to how to present a contest to people that didn't know anything about what was going on.
Well, it's very kind of you to say, and I enjoyed it. I never met a mic I didn't like.
Bada boom.
what did Peter called you the mouth of the South? I always thought you were more like the golden microphone guy, you know.
On the surf circuit, when I came back and I was traveling over in Australia and Indonesia, and when I came back a couple of years later, I ended up at a pro surf contest down in Jensen Beach, and they didn't have an announcer calling the heats or anything. And a friend of mine said, "You can do that. Get up there." So I grabbed a microphone. That was January 1983. I ended up announcing 13 different pro surf contests.
Oh, wow, that's great.
And went on to work with the ASP. I announced ASP, Association of Surfing Professional events all over the world: Australia, Hawaii, Costa Rica, Barbados. I did all of the pro surfing events in mainland United States in 86, 87, 88. So, yeah, I was known as the mouth of the South by whoever called me that, but it stuck because I was from South Florida.
Balance the world with the endo spin. Grab the mic, let the good vibes begin. Everyone succeeds, that's the creed. Hunters aspire, the fire we need.
You were working somewhere tangential to Chris West and Scott McCrannell, maybe Scott as well, and Chuck Lagana. How did this all happen? How did you? Okay, you're in college. You're surfing.
I was the manager of Skateboard Safari in West Palm Beach.
There it is.
Those guys all worked for me or skated. Scott didn't work for me. I think Chuck worked at the skate park a little bit. The Texters, John Texter and his brother Tab, their mother and stepfather were co-owners with a couple other partners. But I got these guys to skate. We went to a contest, and I had this big Dodge Maxi van, and I would take everybody. We'd just load up in my van and arrive at either Fort Pierce or Gainesville or Kona or Clearwater. Everybody'd ride in my van. And I was the one that went to California and solidified the deal with Sims. I went up to Santa Barbara and met with Tom and his father, and I got all the gear. So whether Chuck said it was him or it was Chris West, whoever made the phone call to make the initial connection, you said you figured that out. So whatever that story is, but I physically went to California, rented a car, drove up to the Sims offices, and sewed up the deal.
Awesome. That is awesome.
It became a powerful team.
So the interesting thing is that you were getting, even at the time, a couple $1,000s worth of product at a time, and no one else really knew that that was the thing you could do. You could call California and get product, and they would send you free stuff. and you could, ride, of course you needed to be good enough to represent their company. But that was something that was like, hey, what are those guys doing? It was like, it was a thing. Because we
Well,
were
nobody knew what a pro was back then. The pro hadn't really evolved yet. That was just like
And
all of a sudden, boom, it happened. It's so
well,
exciting.
the turnover in the industry of equipment was happening at such a rapid rate. The product was flying out of retail stores, and boxes and boxes coming out of the manufacturers. The brand names that were supplying everything were shipping product. It was a madhouse at all of the warehouses, because I went to the Bain factory in the beginning of all of that, and they couldn't make them fast enough.
Yeah,
That was happening everywhere. But in the meantime, they were all trying to grasp on to the movers and the shakers, the good skaters. And yeah, there was a free for all. If you said the right thing, talk to the right people, you could get equipment. Now I went to Tracker, and Dave Dominy, he was not bowled over by my story. He was real hardline. And so I went over to Gullwing and talked to Mike Williams. Mike fixed us all up. So it all depends on who was feeling that you were legitimate. And we were legitimate. We had the best team on the East Coast.
Yeah. Well, they were probably in shock too, because they're moving product out, but they'd never heard about, give out some boards to market yourself even more. So this was all new for them too. So
yeah, it was a free for all. I mean, it's like the story, if you know about Logan Erskies and Brian Logan and what they were doing. I mean, they latched on to Tony Alva. That was the first free boards Tony Alva was getting, with Logan Erskies. And that didn't last very long, but it lasted long enough for Logan to get even a bigger foothold in the marketplace out there. But yeah, the product and brand names were crazy in the explosion of all this. I mean, the urethane wheel changed the history of the sport, and they came around in 1974. I remember our first box of Cadillac wheels showing up. Ooh. And changed my skateboarding forever, because I always had an old Hobie Super Surfer with clay wheels and ball bearings. All through the late 60s into college, I skateboarded everywhere, in University of South Florida in 69, 70, and 71, and just on clay wheels. I'm one of the originals. Started on cut a steel shoe skate in half and tack it onto a 2x4 back in 1963.
You are old.
So, I've been through the whole gamut.
I want to shout out to Frank Nasworthy from Florida to bring the urethane wheel to attention. So
no, Frank changed the world of skateboarding, turned it upside down, and suddenly you could roll over a rock and not eat shit.
Yeah, I mean, I remember where I was. Howard Word, the guy's name was, in Clearwater, Moss Brothers. We were all skating on rattle traps, and here goes this guy by me, just smooth, and I was like, "Whoa, wait about that! Wait a minute!" So not only did you have to buy new wheels that would hold the bearings, I found out when I got there with my $16. This is a huge amount of money, $16. For 4 wheels. That then I had to borrow money for bearings. I forgot about back then.
Loose bearings.
No. The ones
sealed bearing.
First urethane was in the loose ball.
Yeah,
and then it stepped over to the sealed bearings, and then
I hated those things.
Well, I mean, it was just wonderful when one wheel came out of adjustment and 16 stainless steel balls went everywhere, and you were done if you didn't, have a full kit.
So, Hunter, do you remember the first time you got to ride a urethane board?
Yeah, I was. We had a surf shop in Jupiter called Resin Craft. We made Lower East Side surfboards, and a sales guy came in, and he had a box of the wheels. And I bought a set from him right then and there and changed them over on my Hobie and went over to Jupiter High School and skated through the hallways of Jupiter High School. It was in the summer, so there wasn't schools out.
Okay.
But the sidewalks and all throughout the school were just super slick, perfect concrete. And I skated my brains out that day. It changed my world.
Ah, amazing. Amazing how technology can just alter the world. So it's just amazing.
Yeah.
From the surf to the streets, a pass so wide. Sims East team, where legends collide. He's the voice of motion, a life in gear, gliding through decades without any fear.
Hunter, tell us about this Hamboard's skateboard video.
All right. I was at Surf Expo, as I am every Surf Expo for the last 40 some odd years. I was at Surf Expo and I saw Abraham Paskowitz, is an old friend of mine from the first family of surfing, the Paskowitz family. And he was in this booth for Hamboards. He had initially worked for Carver. And when he jumped ship and went to Hamboards, and he had this, what they call surf skate. And I said, can I have a try? And he goes, sure, take it. And the floor is perfect in Surf Expo. They don't have carpet in there anymore. They just have concrete floors. And this was, I think, 3 years ago. So I threw it down and started gyrating, which is something I've done since I was a kid. Surf style. So I'm pumping without putting my foot on the ground. Just I get rolling and then create the pump. And this skate worked better than any skateboard I had ever used. And I've been using dregs, decks, and different trucks that I make really loose. I have the least amount of turns on the kingpin to keep the trucks really loose. And I'd have a hard time finding a truck that would turn the same. The Carver's trucks, most of the surf skate trucks have a very short radius. They'll go this way only to this extent, and then you come back to the other side. Now, if you look at my hand, you see I'm going about like that. This skate would go like this.
Wow.
And the movement of the truck was the most surf-like of any truck I'd ever used. And I went back and I was telling Abraham, this is just the best ever. And he says, well, let me introduce you to the owner. And he introduced me to a guy named Donnie. And Donnie said, oh, man, I know who you are. You were one of my heroes, blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking at him like, how do you know who I am? Anyway, I proceeded to tell him that it was the best skate. And he said, well, maybe we can do some collab marketing and Endoboard and Hamboard. And I said, whatever you want to do. So he came, hired a photographer, and they came to my office about a month or so later and wanted to make a video of me on this surf skate. So this is the product of that collaboration. And you see how the deck turns just the way I was showing.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to go back?
Like I say, the surf skates don't move that much. It's a finite. You can only get the carve as far as the truck will allow you to turn. And they work to a degree, but this one works better. So anyway, this is a video I made for them, and I love the board. I've got two of them.
How long ago was this video?
3 years, I think.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. Now, are they marketing these trucks now? It seems like I've seen something about these trucks.
I don't know what the name. It's Donnie's product. And I don't know, he's consolidating right now. he said the surf skate market is over. There's too many players, and he wasn't successful enough in his marketing efforts to gain enough market share. So now he's a aficionado of stand-up paddle skating.
Oh.
In other words, he's got a stand-up paddle pole with a rubber tip, and he's doing that in the street. And he organizes races and does all kinds of stuff in that genre, and he's pursuing that now.
It seems like this would be a good truck for these new Pumptracks that might have more turns to them and not just ups and downs.
Yeah, that there's not enough Pumptracks around. There's no Pumptrack here. If I had a Pumptrack, I'd be on it every day.
I'm pushing for more Pumptracks, especially for older people. It's good cardio exercise.
Oh, it's pumping a skateboard is what I do, and a Pumptrack just makes it even easier because you've got momentum play where you can play with the curvature and the slopes, as minor as they are, to generate more speed.
Yeah.
With this Hamboards, and for those out there, it's HAMBOARDS on Instagram, just like it sounds. These look like if you're riding it for fun, it's going to be easier to turn and easier to work that pumping sensation, but you're not going to be going this fast for distance. With this normal skateboard, 169s, what Indies on it, and you get it going normal, old school skateboard, and you get it going and you're pumping on a flat road, you're going pretty fast.
Yeah.
You can make it. This looks more surfy because with surfing, you can go up, hit the lip, come down. If you can make it if you can surf like Kelly Slater, you can go down and come back up and do that, 10 times down the line. Most people are not going to be able to turn that quick, but this affords you that opportunity to get more turns in a shorter space of pavement, if you will. You don't have to go as far because you're turning so sharp.
You can control your pump as to how much arc to arc you want. You want to go wide, you go wider, or you go like this and wrap up your speed.
Okay, I got you.
The choice is yours, how fast you want to go. The more turning you do, the slower it goes, but you get bigger arcs. The tighter your turns are, the faster you go. So
you said this is a couple of years ago, so your 70th birthday, you did this?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
So everyone, this is not a 17-year-old. This is a 70-year-old.
Correct.
And he's been training on Indo boards for decades and surfing and skating, and this is what you can do if you stay on it.
Hunter, let's get back to the days when you were announcing and nobody knew what the names of the tricks were. How did you figure out names for stuff?
I didn't make them up. It was what everybody else was calling them. I mean, at that early stage, what they were doing on vert was progressing so fast. It wasn't as diverse. They weren't doing, all the different grabs. That wasn't happening where they had different names, slob and whatever else kind of names they have for hand grabs, because people weren't doing a grab here or grab on the tail or a grab across this rail. That wasn't going on. They were doing lip tricks and re-entries like rock and rolls. What else were they doing? Yeah. So those things, I didn't make up any of the names. That were whatever the skaters were calling them. But
it was the transition from the surf style to vertical. And vertical came
vertical
in.
Changed the face of skateboarding because it created aerials.
Right.
Surfing, the aerials were only one or two people in 79, 80 were really trying to do airs, but they weren't functional airs because they weren't throwing a big air and surfing out of it into another maneuver. They could throw an air and maybe land it, and that was it. They couldn't do anything else because they'd lost all their speed. That didn't happen until the late 80s and early 90s, that they were connecting aerials into a continuation of the ride. In the 80s, a little bit of aerial that was happening in surfing was just a one-off. John Holman was doing 360 like pop shove it airs on a surfboard, and he could surf out of that generally, but usually not. He'd do it at the end of the wave, but because
Keckley do some of that.
You'd lose your speed. And Keck was one of the first ones. Matt Keckley, he was a skater. So, but John Holman took it to a whole nother level. He astounded the world with what he was doing. And then the next person was Herbie's son, Christian. And Christian is the first one to really start putting some distance above the lip into an aerial and be able to land it and surf into another next maneuver. And then the rest is history. And they started.
Well, it's like parks like Indian Harbor Beach built an extension off of their surf style park. Clearwater did the same thing. Kona did the same thing. They had to build some vert because that's how fast it was moving.
Well, yeah, we're Alan Gelfand down in Fort Lauderdale. That's where he learned to do his ollies on vert, was an extension on top of the wall.
Right.
That was, everybody hit extensions because we all built such soft bowls. The original skate parks didn't have any way to do vertical.
He didn't have to build an extension. Is that, I got the right thing? Where's Phil?
He's down.
Phil.
Yeah, I'm down.
Phil built the big skate park.
That snake run there had enough vertical where they were doing all kinds of great things, but it wasn't the status quo. Yeah. And then everybody went to half pipes, and then the vertical was there for everybody.
Yeah. That was a major transition going on when the vertical became the norm.
Yeah, and to get back to what Ed said, that's what separated skateboarding and surfing, because it started as to all of us in virtually California and Florida and the East Coast up in Jersey, everybody were surfers, and they were just skating because when there was no surf, let's go skate.
Right.
And then the parks gave a place to where you could surf skate on the banks and do basically surf maneuvers. And so vertical changed all that. But the foundation of skateboarding is surfing.
Well, I made a pitch not too long ago to build an artificial reef after these storms hit Daytona and stuff. I said, let's build an artificial reef, and we'll make it so when the waves come in, which start hundreds of miles offshore, they would come in and hit these different artificial reefs and create different wave patterns. You could have a vertical wave or a long curling wave. And I got a little bite on it, but the government didn't want to hear about it.
First off, the cost of all that is hundreds of millions of dollars. Second off, it's been.
I got it for free. I'm going to do it for free.
All right.
There's already rock out there. There's limestone already out there. Just dig some holes, pile it up, lay it up, and you create tourism and fisheries and economic.
Okay. All right.
That's what it is.
But they're making successful ones in Australia. They did one over in the UK outside of Bournemouth, and it was a complete flop. They spent all kinds of money, and then the marketing to tell everybody to come to this artificial surf reef out, and it didn't work. But
the reason it didn't work is because they didn't have the right geology and the right flow. You got to have the elements.
They made these big bags of sand, huge concrete filled or sand or something that there was a bag and then another bag next to it. But anyway, I just came across this 2 or 3 weeks ago about the success that they're enjoying with it over in Australia. So
they mark natural environment, artificial waves.
somewhat.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a surf reef that's been man-made and put out there.
Okay, I love it.
But yeah, you just have to Google it and look it up. It's
Good tourism. I mean, that would change surfing, so it'd be.
Well, that's what they thought at Bournemouth, and they.
Well, hey, I'm all about failure, Hunter. If you want to talk failure, I am your number one failure in the world, and I make thousands of failures every day.
We want to talk success, but there are people that are already doing it. They're way.
So you guys, I mean, it's all in fun, but it's hard to build anything that is going to work with Mother Nature, who can change her mind at any moment.
The ocean
inlet over here, or something. They can, it's hard to do that, but that's why Kelly is doing his stuff in small lakes and controlled environments. And I'm talking about Kelly Slater and the surfing.
Yeah, there's an outfit in Florida now. They're selling chairs and some kind of interior wave making gadget. Yes. So
there's a half a dozen different companies that are selling wave pool projects.
Yeah, right.
Different engineering from at least 5, and there might be as many as 8, 9, or 10.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Same thing as the early skate parks. They go here, make just. No problem. Just build a park. You'll be rich.
The first go round of wave pools happened in 1983 and 84. There was a company out of California that was using a almost like a toilet flush system. They would force the water down through compressed air or with like concrete tamps that would push down.
Wow.
And the slots at the bottom of the wall, at the bottom of the body of water, there was these taps, and the water would rush out of that and create a wave. And that all happened in 83, 84, and they failed miserably because they didn't know what they were doing. And the whole thing folded. But now there's a Surf Park Association that is the governing body, and they just had a conference in Virginia Beach where they opened the biggest wave park on the East Coast, right in the heart of Virginia Beach.
Is that any good?
2 blocks. Yeah, it's insane. 2 blocks away from the ocean.
So that took 30 years for them to develop it then.
And that's by one company. In Australia, there's 2 or 3 companies. In the UK, or the first company before Kelly's company was called Wave Garden, and they started in northern Spain. And then they built the first commercial pool in the UK. And that worked for a little while, but they kept having mechanical problems and stuff. And eventually they closed it. And now they've opened 2 other ones in the UK, and there's one in Brazil that's open. There's one in Australia that it's super huge with a plunger right in the middle of this lake that goes.
Yeah, there you go.
It looks like an upside down mushroom, and it's about, I don't know how many yards wide it is, but they have different breaks all around.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Yeah, different
so they
breaks.
Can pump a wave out like every 10 seconds or something, and it'll break on these different bottoms in the circle. So they could have surf schools on every kind of wave, from a barrel to a mush burger to a trestles type of wave. I mean, the technology and the cost of what's going on in surf parks today is crazy. And I guarantee more than half of them will be out of business within 2 or 3 years of opening. But there are some that are destined to survive.
They've got to make it work, and they've got to make it work for a long time, because like at a friend of mine, his son won a session at one of Kelly Slater's parks. And this park is a long stretch of water, and you sit there, and Phil, if you haven't seen it, you set up, you're there. There's nothing going on except there's a train track up here.
Yeah.
And a train comes, picks up a wedge, and throws a wave for the length of the pool. So Randy's there, is my old college buddy, and he asked whoever he got to ask, he goes, "Can I ride? Can I have a ride?" And they said, "One." He missed it.
It's
Missed the wave.
expensive. You got to
And if
wait.
you catch it, you have a quarter of a mile of a, depending on what they're trying to do. But that whole mushroom thing, pumping them out, that's getting scalable and getting to where it might be affordable.
Well, Kelly's machine is not practical for money-making purposes because it only pumps one wave every 3 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
The parks that are going to make money, a Wave Garden pumps a wave, I don't know, every 8 or 10 seconds. And it can break on different parts of the bottom. And Kelly's, the one that he's got out in California, I think there's one other one that they built one over in Dubai. And Dubai doesn't matter whether they make money or not because it's still all by the Arabs. But the wave there it's the longest wave. All of these wave parks, none of them have the length of Kelly's. Kelly's is about 700 yards.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Great for training and teaching and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, but it's only one wave every 3 minutes, so that makes it difficult. So, in hiring that park, it comes out to a cost of $500 a wave or something like that, which is ludicrous. But the rich people are paying for it. And the people that go to Dubai, a buddy of mine went to the Maldives. He's been going to the Maldives every year for the last 10 years. He stopped in Dubai on a layover and decided he'd spend 3 days and go and surf the wave pool. And it was costing him about $400 a wave, I think.
Wow.
Then he surfed it twice, 2 days in a row. But yeah, it was an investment. To say
back in the 70s, the surfers said that the problem with skateboard parks is that there's never a new wave. It's always the same shape and everything. And I've been trying to figure out how can we make skate parks to be flexible so you could, okay, I'm going to change this today and I'm going to inflate behind it or whatever and just create a whole new kind of.
You don't have to do that because in the amount of lines and the skate parks they're building today, Tim Payne and his company and whatever company they're making, they lay out the bowls and the walls and the things. There's infinite numbers of lines that you can draw. So your idea is you can't
out of date.
Yeah, you can't do it. So you create a design that gives you an unlimited amount of lines that you can draw through the park. And that's the beauty of the way they're doing all the skate parks and even the Olympic venues. It's all about what line you choose to draw. And you can't run out of ideas.
Right.
It's enough different ways to hit it.
And the architecture is such that there's always a flow to it. It doesn't stop or kinks or whatever. We used to have so many kinks. It was just terrible.
There's no more kinks anymore. They've got the transitions wired. They've got the surface texture just right. And they throw in every kind of wall and hip and tabletop, whatever want, just creates unlimited amount of lines. So
excellent.
So I want to go. Okay, so I remember the South Americans guy. That's Sean Thompson. So we're
South African.
Pardon me. So the Bronze Dossies was Peter Townend, Rabbit Bartholomew, and Mark
not Rabbit Bartholomew was never a Bronze Dossie. Bronze Dossies was Ian Cairns, Peter Townend, Shane Horan, and then, Jim Banks. Those were the originals. But the two that organized it and made it happen were Ian Cairns and Peter Townend.
So those two guys came to the Surf Expo in '78. It was in Kissimmee. I met them in the parking lot, and we somehow got lost and didn't make it inside for quite a while. But I was mad. Well, I was mad. I was a devotee of the Surfer and Skateboarder magazine. So back in those days, it was for skating. It was speed, style, and difficulty of maneuver. So more than half of your score was supposed to be how fast and how cool you look. How stylish you look. and having Mark Richards not there, I had just seen the Wounded Gull cover shot that, with him on the thruster. And it's a historic thing, guys. If you didn't know, you didn't know. But that was not a fin setup that people were using. And to see that move, I was really bummed that I didn't get to meet Mark. But years later, I met Tosh Townend on a photo shoot with Paul Schmidt. Very nice kid. And I didn't realize that this was going to be Peter's son, but it was really cool to meet him. But I have a question. We've talked about just a little bit about South Africa, all about wave pools. We're talking a lot about surfing, and we in the beginnings of skateboarding, and we had talked about this a little bit before. And you, as the statesman that kind of goes over both sports, would know better than anyone what the impact of Florida is. I get people say, "Oh yeah, did you see Dogtown?" I go, "Yeah, but that's about California. We have our own story here, and then we have a lot of big champions that people know, but then there's a bunch that people don't." And you and I were talking about Florida having actually more of a presence in the championships and the world champions of skating and surfing than anywhere else. And I'm
more in surfing. I don't include skating in that realm.
Okay.
Surfing, we have 23 world titles on the East Coast of the United States, and all of those are from Florida.
23 world titles. So
skateboarding doesn't come close to that, but I mean, the impact of Florida on skateboarding, it was strictly who was able to get to California, because with all of the manufacturers and the brands located in Southern California and the media, all the magazines, the founding magazine was Skateboarder magazine from Surfer Publications, and then all the other ones that came along were still all based in California.
Oh, yeah.
So with all the media, the photographers and all that feeding that, the East Coast skaters that got into the limelight were ones that went out west. I took Mike Fulmer out there, and he ended up staying, and he became a very well-known pro out there.
Yeah, he's a good skater.
Gelfin would go out there and visit Stacy and do the Bones Brigade stuff, but he didn't live there. So
Right.
He would have an impact for a little while, and then he'd come back. But, we had photographers out here that submitted photos, and, I wrote several Who's Hot in Skateboarder magazine about the East Coast guys. Jacksonville, because of Kona, it was a hotbed of skate energy, and yet the one that got noticed was Jimmy Plumer from Jacksonville, who moved to Dogtown and lived in Dogtown, so he became a Dogtown skater.
Right.
Brought Jay Adams back, and Jay became really close friends with Mitch Kauffman up in Jacksonville Beach, and he would come and spend time with Mitch. But it was always, when Kona happened and all the guys came from out west, Shogo and Jay and Tony and Hackett and all those guys, I mean, they loved it. I mean, everybody got along famously. There was no egos about, well, we're Californians and fuck you. Didn't happen. Everybody got along, and we had great events at Kona.
Yeah.
Many of them that trickled down and maybe went to Phil's Park or showed up wherever else. But we had Wally and Stropel come out for the surf and skate expo in West Palm Beach, and that was exposure for our guys to see what those guys were doing. But I fed the Sims team. I would go to California and shoot Super 8s of all the guys in California, the skate parks out there, and I'd come back and show them to Chuck and Fulmer and the boys, and within 2 days, they're doing all the same tricks that they were doing in California. So that helped the Sims team, because all my guys were up to date with what was going on in California because of my Super 8 movies.
Right.
So
there was
that
no internet back then.
No, nothing like we have communication wise now, but Super 8s, I've got a bag of Super 8s. I haven't even looked at what's in there, but I'm sure some of those skate videos are in there. But I also shot 16 millimeter for Jim Plimpton and his movie We're All Bozos on These Boards. And he was a precursor. He was one of the first filmmakers to make skateboard films.
Yeah.
Is he
I
the
think
same
you're right
family?
about going to California. Like Mike McGill ended up in California, and
Yeah.
Rodney Mullen ended up in California. And,
Because that's where all the energy and the manufacturers and the money was. He couldn't make a living with the talent. I mean, look at Rodney's talent. He wasn't going to, Sean Petty, he never left.
yeah,
Think if Sean had gone out there.
right.
So the guys,
He's in the California Hall of Fame.
yeah, but he doesn't have the notoriety of Rodney and McGill.
No, it's true. Well, Rodney,
Yeah.
they're phenomenal. They're phenoms. So, there's
So you're saying Florida was the farm team for California then?
Yeah, well, a lot, but who didn't want to move into California?
I didn't want to go. That would have meant no more college, no more funding for life. So I had to bail on that. But I think that
That's because your life dream was not skateboarding; it was just to go.
well, it was after you left. We're talking about you stepped aside around 79. Somewhere before 80, and right then, a couple years after that, everything went south in skating, and it looked to me like I would be riding ramps in somebody's backyard in Kansas, and then maybe in Arkansas, and who knows where I'd be going. And I was like, I don't think I want to do that. And that it was just not the right time to be in it. Now the guys, Paul Schmidt's another guy who moved out there, did very well. And those guys did amazing. I think the thing that the Florida skating had that I didn't feel so much in California, unless you were an elite skater, but was when people would pull into the parking lot, everybody's like, all right, so-and-so's here. Hey, man, they got here. And there wasn't as much localism. There wasn't a vibe. I got vibed heavily by Steve Ebaugh. He found out that he knew I wasn't from around there. And every time I would drop in to practice, he'd drop in right behind me. And then it was pretty much I needed to get out of there. But
I didn't grow up in the company of the right people.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's that.
You have to make friends. Because I'm, Steve Ebaugh to this day, when I see him, he comes up and gives me a big bear hug. And I skated, but I wasn't anywhere near the level of those guys. But I traveled with Wally and Stropel, and the door was open everywhere we went.
So you must have been, you were at the skate ranch on 79 when they did
I checked out in 78. I was living with Stropel and Hesselgrave and Wally while they were doing the drawings for the skate ranch.
Oh, okay. So there was the backyard pool that when I was there for, then it was the 79 Hester, he was the only person skating it. And the guys from, I don't know if it was, I forgot which photographer, it was Warren maybe. They had Wally with matching yellow and orange, everything brand new to match the tile in the little backyard pool they had there that nobody rode. But that broken front arm he was a thing to watch. He was amazing. It was fun to watch. And Fulmer ripping the half pipe. I mean,
everybody was telling me when you used to be announcing stuff, you announced it so that no matter who you were, you gave out positive vibes for that person to do their stuff. And I thought that was pretty cool because everybody was trying to learn and do their thing. So
yeah, but nice. I had a rude boy sense of humor too. I would I knew all the guys, so I could say whatever I wanted, and it was okay. I mean, back then it was a great big fun time for everybody, and everybody gave each other shit no matter what. So
When you're talking rude boy, I'd be Chris Baucom.
Baucom, yep. He was he just started at the end of when I get bailed out.
Mm-hmm.
You guys had all of 79. I was gone. I went to Hawaii in January of 79 and ended up in Australia and Indonesia,
Wow.
and then on a sailboat sailing to Hawaii. So I was nowhere near skateboard in 79, but that's a wild group. What is that skate park?
There's Baucom right there with the blue cup.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got Mitch.
That's when Mitch got into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and they let Phil in, even though I was drunk and did a terrible induction.
You were drinking a lot.
Oh gosh.
There's Biniak.
May he rest in peace. It was good.
Yep. He was a great guy.
Yeah. And Tim Ebaugh, and hopefully he gets better. He's been in the hospital a little bit.
That's a bummer.
But yeah, Biniak was down. I had an Alva board that I had signed. And I was handed it to him to see if he would sign it. He's like, I'm not signing that. And I'm like, okay, that was pretty cool. Let's see if we get some other pictures here. And this is more of a.
Who's that? Is that Bruce Mason there?
Mason and Biniak and me.
That's at Tampa. It's the same thing. He's got the same. Most of these are the same event.
That was the Florida Skater Hall of Fame inductions.
Yeah, so it was kind of rare because now Mitch went in, and you guys Kona crew usually never comes to Tampa. They, if it's an induction, they want it to be at Kona. So it was cool that you guys were down there. And for me, it was like, gosh, meeting Bob was like a dream. He was never around.
No, he was a real close friend with Mitch. Mitch was close friends with the Dogtown guys, Biniak, mostly Biniak and Jay. But that's why Biniak showed up, because Mitch was getting in.
So this was 2005, wasn't it? Wasn't that when he was? I was inducted the same year he was.
Yeah, if you find any pictures or video of me, please destroy them. I think I've paid my dues. But yeah, that's Binky, Conklin, and this is in the back building, that spot.
That's where the inductions were.
Yeah. What a phenomenon Spot has turned out to be.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of guys. That is Kona. And I think, I'm sober here, which is a wonderful side note. But that was at Kona, and you can tell the humidity is killing us. That they're rebuilding their ramp now, I think.
The big ramp?
That they're trying to. Oh,
yeah, that's great.
I fixed this. Let me get a different one. Hold on a minute. I think. Oh, it's funny anyway, so I'll show it. The light reflected off the food in your mouth, and it looks like you are a pumpkin there. You've got
Billy Bob teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might have. I used to carry those around and pop them in every now and again. So that might have been what was going on there, except I had that sandwich in my hand. So maybe that was something in my mouth.
I want to go down here. What's this?
That's the longboard surfing Hawaiian Open. I was the MC over in Hawaii for 5 years in a row.
Wow.
How
How did you get these gigs? You just said I'm available, and they threw money at you?
No, I knew the guys that were putting the contest together. Gary Linden was the contest director, and I worked for Gary Linden back in the stubbies in California, in Oceanside, California in 70, 80, 86, 87, 88. And they tapped Gary to do the Longboard Magazine U.S. Open, not U.S. Open, United States Longboard Surfing Championship Tour, which was like 4 or 5 events, of which the Hawaiian Open was one of those events. So I was working for Gary Linden. And then they turned it over. Linden got out of being the director, and they turned it over to the ASP. And I was invited by the ASP in Hawaii to announce the last 2 years. I did 5 in a row.
What do you tell young people now that might feel they have a voice? What would you suggest to them? Because there seems to be the streaming market. There's all these different events going on. What would you suggest to them if they felt they had a voice?
I don't know.
It's a big question right there, right?
No idea. I mean, I was involved in the industry. I entered the surf industry in 1973, building surfboards and skateboards and all of that for a surf shop in Jupiter. And that was my entry into the industry. And then the skateboarding kept me in the industry because, from that beginnings, I met Donald Takayama. I started surfing for Donald Takayama. And his best friend was, it was a group of friends, was Tony Channon and Bill Bain. And those are people that are still to this day are close friends of mine. And then through those friendships and people that I knew, when I started announcing the contest, the skateboard contest in Florida, I went out to California and they didn't have anybody that was doing it out there. So I kind of plugged into that. And from that, I met everybody. So everybody within the skateboard industry knew who I was. And I had the Sims team. That was a recognition. Like I say, I was never a great skater. I could skate and hold my own, but I was 26 years old. I wasn't throwing airs.
Right.
Well, the amazing thing is that you could give them a child or an up and comer all the advice you want, but to be able to MC a surf contest, there is not next guy up 45 seconds. There's not another guy standing there and then he skates for 45 seconds. There's 20 minutes, a half hour between heats and changing which group, go practice, warm up. There's a lot of comfort. Like, I get nervous. I can talk to anybody. I can announce at the Skateboard Hall of Fame stuff. If Hunter is sitting in the damn audience, I can't say a damn word. I'm all choked up because what am I going to say? I mean, he's there, and then I look back and the guys from Spot were there. One of the Kona induction, I think Ray Diaz asked me to induct him 5 minutes before, so I had no way to prepare, and I was it was terrible. But it is something that I guess you either have or you don't, to be able to string along somebody who might not have wanted to come, or they don't know anything.
Yeah, it's hard to teach. Either you got the knack, and I have the knack. I can, like I say, I never had a mic I didn't like. Give me a microphone, I change personalities.
Let me ask you a question.
Change my voice, I change my whole demeanor to be a microphone presence.
What contest, this is a weird thing to ask, but what contest is not your favorite one, but one where somebody who was young and upcoming just blew away people, and just.
I announced the first professional contest that Joel Tudor surfed in. He was 14 years old and surfed at Oceanside. It was Life's a Beach. I believe it was the name of the company. Life's a Beach sponsored a longboard contest, and Joel got third. And that was his coming out. I mean, Joel arguably is the greatest longboard surfer of all time. And I've known Joel since 2 years before that, since he was 12, because I surfed for Donald Takayama. He was on Takayama's team. So when he surfed that first longboard contest and made the finals, he ended up third, and that young one won first place. That to me was a milestone. And then I think Kelly was in the shortboard part of that event.
Same contest.
Same contest,
Wow.
but it was called, the part I was in was sponsored by Cuervo Tequila, and the shortboard contest was Life's a Beach. And I'm pretty sure Slater competed in that as well, and that should have been around 92 or 93.
Who was he surfing for by that time? Had he gone?
Kelly was
wasn't on Walker or Ocean Avenue anymore,
no,
right?
no. He never was on that team. He
never was on that team.
No, he surfed for Cattry, and Quiet Flight made boards for him. And then he went to California and he picked up Merrick's early.
Yeah, anybody he wanted after you watch him surf, right?
Merrick was sponsored him from very early on, but his Florida board started with Quiet Flights, or not even before that was Salick Brothers. When he was like 8 years old, I think he was on Salick surfboards, and then he went to Quiet Flights, and he was on Cattry's team for a little while. So yeah, but never Ocean Avenue. He was.
No, I thought,
So Hunter, are you doing any voiceovers or narration for documentaries or live performance type things?
No, I do.
Able?
I do the inductions for the East Coast Surfing Hall of Fame. We do that every 2 years. I started in 2010, and this January, just a month and a half from now, I'll do the 30th anniversary of the East Coast Surfing Hall of Fame.
Okay, great. Yeah.
That'll be my 9th inductions that I've ran. Wow. For that, I'm doing interviews for the East Coast Surfing Hall of Fame. I'll be doing live interviews at Surf Expo with members of the Surfing Hall of Fame for their website and for archives. And my biggest event that I do every year is Surfing Santas of Cocoa Beach on Christmas Eve. This will be 9 years in a row for doing the Surfing Santas, and that gets nationwide coverage on CBS every year. So check it out. But
do you announce for CBS, or are you on the side?
No, CBS covers it.
Covers it. But you get interviewed by them, or how did you get recognized?
A couple times I've said a few words, but it's the CBS affiliate in Orlando films it, and they turn it over to CBS. And I think the last couple years it showed up on the CBS news feed, talking about Surfing Santas. But it's a great event.
Fun. That's great.
That one's fun. I get to do. Nobody tells me what to say or what not to say. I just do my thing, and it's a blast. Everybody has fun. It's the most fun event. Like I say, everybody comes down with miles and miles of smiles. Everybody's happy. It's Christmas Eve, and we've gone through every bit of weather except for extreme rain. We've had extreme cold. One year it was freezing. It was only 45 degrees throughout the day. Generally, it's in the mid 70s, and give or take what the surf is. Last year, the waves were insane, and a whole lot of the kids that usually show up and go surfing couldn't get out because it was about 4 or 5 feet.
Wow.
And really good surf. But we do a costume contest for all age groups. We do a babies event, a children's event, 12 and under, and then we do a kids, teens, and then we do old people. And a costume contest. We get Hawaiian dancers that come up and dance. So we have a live band that comes and plays a set, and I do all the fill and keep everybody apprised of what's going on.
So
Balance the world with the
out of here momentarily.
okay.
I got people showing up. So
Okay.
besides that, I just enjoyed seeing you again, Hunter. I mean, it's been a long
you.
time, and I was always in the background. I'm not a front person, so it's just to be around you was a great moment for the sport back in the '70s, the skateboarding. So just want to thank you.
Very kind of you. I just do what I do.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Visiting here with Hunter Joslin. Thank you for coming, Hunter. This is hello, Nigel. This is episode 58 of the Florida Skateboarding Bros Show. We try to do things that are interesting to you and also are fun for us, and it's always fun to talk with Hunter because he knows so much about what it was such a part of early skateboarding in Florida as well as surfing to this day. So thanks again for coming, and thank you for watching. Like, share, comment, follow.
You're watching the Skateboarding Bros Show. Stories from the pioneers of skateboarding about the history and the fun of the sport we love.